Chrysler air raid siren in Rochester, New York. Ever wonder what is on top of the Art Deco style buildings that were built in 1936, located at 414 Andrews Street in Rochester, New York? Atop the building across the street from the Rochester Fire Department headquarters and shop buildings complex sits a relic of the Cold War. The giant red machine on that building is a Chrysler air raid siren that was installed in 1955. The Chrysler air raid siren, the first generation was known as the Chrysler Bell Victory siren, is an outdoor warning siren. Built during the Cold War era from 1952 to 1957 by Chrysler, its power plant contained the newly designed Superpower Hemi V8 engine with a displacement of 331 cubic inches, producing about 180 horsepower. The sirens are about 12 feet long. They're built atop a quarter section of a Dodge truck chassis rail and weigh an estimated 3 short tons. Its 6 horns are each 3 feet long, and the siren has an output of about 138 decibels and can be heard as far as 25 miles away. In 1952, the cost of a Chrysler air raid siren was about $5,000. That's equivalent to about almost $53,000 in 2019. The United States government helped buy sirens for select state and local law enforcement agencies. In California, about 6 were located in Los Angeles County, and they were placed around key locations of populated areas. Another 10 were sold to other governmental agencies in the state of California. These became known as Big Red Whistles, and they were luckily only used for testing. Some of the sirens were located so remotely that they deteriorated due to lack of maintenance. The main purpose of the siren was to warn the public in the event of a nuclear attack by the Soviet Union during the Cold War. In the event of attack, the operator's job was to start the engine and bring it up to operating speed, and then pull and release the transmission handle to start the wailing signal generation. The Chrysler air raid siren produced the loudest sound ever achieved by an air raid siren. The Cold War was a period of geopolitical tension between the Soviet Union and the United States. It also included their respective allies, which became known as the Eastern Bloc nations, aligned with the Soviet Union, and the Western Bloc nations, aligned with the United States. The Cold War started after World War II. The term cold is used because there was no large-scale fighting directly between the Soviet Union and the United States, which became known as the two superpowers. But there were several regional conflicts fought that were known as proxy wars. One of the more famous proxy wars was the Vietnam War and the wars of Southeast Asia, which the United States were involved with in the 1960s. The Cold War conflict was based around ideological and geopolitical differences and the struggle for global influence by the two superpowers. These two superpowers were temporarily allied during World War II against Nazi Germany. The Cold War split the wartime alliance, leaving the USSR and US as the two superpowers with profound economic and political differences. The USSR, or Soviet Union, revolved around a single party, Marxist-Leninist state operating a planned economy and controlled press. They also had the exclusive rights to establish and govern communities. The United States, being a capitalist state with generally free elections and press, also granted freedom of expression and freedom of association to its citizens. During the 1950s and early 1960s, air raid sirens were part of the civil defense planning efforts across the nation. The Federal Civil Defense Administration was organized by Democratic President Harry S. Truman on December 1, 1950, and became an official government agency on January 12, 1951. The Federal Civil Defense Administration distributed posters, programs, and information about communism, as well as educated people about the threat of communist attacks, such as bombings that could come to the United States from the Soviet Union. Rochester was deemed a potential target, and it was deemed a target due to its manufacturing and defense industries. By 1950, the population of the city had grown to slightly more than 332,000, and it made Rochester the 32nd largest city in the United States. During the 1950s, Rochester was also home to several strategic companies, including the Xerox Corporation, which was originally known as the Haloid Corporation, and was a world leader in imaging, designing, and manufacturing of xerographic equipment. The Eastman Kodak Company, which was a world leader in the film and camera industries, and was Rochester's leading industrial employer. The Gleason Works, which was a machine tool and gear maker. Stromberg Carlson, which was a telecommunications equipment and electronics manufacturing company that was one of the 5 that controlled the national supply of telephone equipment after World War II. Taylor Instrument Company, which was a critical supplier of precision instruments such as compasses, thermometers, hygrometers, barometers, and also high-pressure instruments that were used in the Manhattan Project. Ritter Dental Equipment, which was a manufacturer of dentist chairs, master units, and drills. Rochester Products Division of General Motors, which manufactured carburetors and related components, including emission controls and cruise control systems. Later, this became part of Delphi, which continues to manufacture fuel injection systems in Rochester. The Fowler Permuit Company, which was a pioneer in glass lining of steels. They originally were invented for the purposes of vacuum fermentation of beer. In June 1952, New York State Civil Defense Director Clarence Hubner warned residents, Rochester is only 9.5 hours flying distance from Russia. The only thing that is needed to launch one of those planes is word from Joe Stalin. In 1955, Monroe County Civil Defense Director Robert Abbott proclaimed that the city would be testing the world's largest air siren. Abbott boasted that the alarm, the Chrysler air raid siren, will produce the loudest noise ever devised by man for sustained output by mechanical means. The test of the 138 decibel siren was launched on November 8th and proved successful. Interest in air raid sirens waned by the late 1960s, and agencies started to change their focus to more generalized disaster relief. The region's 584 fallout shelters were emptied. You can still sometimes see the old signs. Most air raid sirens were scrapped or sold to collectors and museums. In some cases, like that of Rochester, the sirens were left in place. There are only a handful of these Cold War relics left in their original locations.
So you can tell me if it turns green.